everyone, and welcome to the Heads Together podcast series where we promote dementia literacy among carers. My name is Aida and I'm one of the partners of the Heads Together project representing Anton Trstenjak Institute of Gerontology and Intergenerational Relations in Slovenia. Today I'm here with occupational therapist Petra Benedicic to talk about daily living and quality of life of people with dementia. Petra, can you briefly introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit more about your background?
Well, thank you, Ivan, for the introduction, for the invitation. So I'm a registered occupational therapist here in Slovenia with background in psychiatry. Then I did masters abroad in Scotland, where I also worked as a community occupational therapist. And when I moved back here home, I started to work as a private occupational therapist at people's homes, and now I also work as a researcher here at the Institute, and my special interest is in long-term care and especially the quality of care for people with dementia. So yeah, that's it.
Petra, occupational therapy specializes in daily activities and how those affect daily functioning. What would you say, how can somebody as a carer plan daily activities for a person with dementia?
Well, I think that's certainly a very important topic in dementia care, but I think we need to look on it very holistically, in the sense that people with dementia are still people, and they still feel and have the need to participate in all four categories of daily activities that we, people that don't have dementia, engage in. So the first category would probably be feeling productive. So that doesn't only mean to go to work and to get money for it, it also means that you have the opportunity to work something, to participate, to engage in your home activities, in probably your garden, to do some fixtures and fixings in your garage, if probably that's more a male thing. So feeling productive is something that's really closely connected to our identity. And it gives us a sense of value and a sense of, I mean something to other people, I can contribute. So that's equally important for people with dementia as it is for us. Then the second thing is definitely feeling joy in leisure time. So we could say, for us leisure time is the time when we don't work, but then for people with dementia, leisure time is when they can really, just do the things they feel joy in or joy with. And we could probably differentiate the leisure time in active and in passive. For example, in active leisure time, you do something where you're also engaged. For example, you play cards, you play soccer, you maybe sing in the choir, things that you actively engage in. But there is also a passive side of leisure activities where you just observe the game of soccer, or where you just, observe your grandchildren how they play. So it's kind of two different different, let's say, areas which connect and which we need both of them. Mm-hmm. And the third, we could say, is feeling good self-care. And by self-care, I don't only mean washing and grooming and changing your clothes and showering. Self-care is also taking care of the place you live in, taking care of your pets, taking care of, the plants you have in your apartment. It's taking care of your car. That's also part of self-care that we kind of don't look at so much, because self-care is the most visible, I think. And then there is this feeling of rest and restoration, which is closely connected maybe to sleep, rest, but also to our spiritual needs. because rest and restoration is really not just about sleep. It's also about where can I find my peace. That can also mean just moving for half an hour away from everyday noises and just finding your peace and quiet. That can also mean just going to Mass for an hour a day and finding your peace and quiet and rest. That can also mean just being with your pet, or just being in your room, in your space for some time and doing nothing. That's also an activity of rest and restoration, which is really important for people with dementia, especially for their brain, so they can recharge in a way and they can sort in their mind all the activities, all the things they sense, they did, and they can come calmer out of their space again and engage again.
Petra, you explained us this holistic approach when talking about people with dementia. How can a carer create these opportunities to match the personal abilities?
So I think, first of all, it's important to acknowledge that it's very difficult for a carer because they are with the person every day, 24/7, and they have other things to do as well. They usually look at the person with dementia. They probably have other elderly at home as well. They might have children, they might have other maybe job. So it is quite difficult to actually sit down and think what kind of activities are important, what kind of activities are, as you said, actually are what's the best for the person with dementia and for their abilities. So first thing is important to acknowledge that, but I think there is a way, if you are prepared, if you know a lot about dementia, if you educate yourself, there is a way. So I think important shift in thinking, in holistic thinking, is to shift the mind from what the person with dementia cannot do anymore into what they still can do, and where the person with dementia feels their sense of purpose, their sense of identity, involvement. So I think there is a huge space here for both the carer and the person with dementia to connect here and to do the things that are that make sense to both of them. So I think we need to ask, what can this person still do? What do they enjoy? What do they want to do? What are the things they used to do but they quit because of maybe small details that they couldn't manage anymore? Acknowledge also the power of pair and the power of group. So if we do something, an activity alone, we would quit if we don't get help or if we struggle. Even more so, that's the case for people with dementia. If we do things together, we build a relationship, but we also do the thing. For example, a mother says she cannot cook anymore. Some carers would go straight into the way where they would just order a meal from a close-by restaurant, or they would just provide frozen meals. But then there is a middle way here, is to look at what person cannot do anymore in this huge and complex activity of cooking. Is it that mom cannot gather the ingredients anymore? Is it that she knows she needs to cook lunch, but she cannot remember in her head what are the appropriate dishes for lunch? She knows where her recipes are, but she doesn't know which one to choose. Is it that she doesn't know where she has the recipes? Because people with dementia don't have this kind of library in their head that we have. They cannot access the information that fast as we do. Then the process of cooking, does she know how to turn on the stove? or how to use the microwave, or is that the main obstacle? The carer needs to have good observational skills to really look and to really be interested and curious in, okay, so what is that one thing or maybe three things that mom is struggling, and support in that particular way.
Petra, you also mentioned visual papers when you write something or there are some pictures. Can you tell us something more about that?
The meaning of visual prompts, or the intention of visual prompts, is to give additional information to the person with dementia, to ease the activity, to start the activity, to proceed with the activity, or to end the activity. How to prepare it. So good guidance is if you just put big letters, capital letters on the paper, if you put simple pictures, so no abstract pictures, no anime pictures, for example. If we put bright colors so that person can instantly know, oh, this is cereal, or this is... And another thing that's also important is with choosing pictures, we try to choose those pictures that match the real object that the person uses. We also need to be careful to place those visual prompts in a place where the person does that thing. So if she takes the medication in the kitchen with a glass of water before she goes to bed, it would be weird to put a visual prompt in, for example, in the bed, yes. Or maybe we can do that on two places. If the person maybe forgets, we can put it on the kitchen top and on her nightstand, to have it ready, or to have maybe checklist before she goes to bed. Did you lock the door? Tick. Did you take the medication? Tick. Did you switch off all the appliances in the kitchen? Tick. So that's another thing we could do, checklist. To help them, yeah. With. So yeah, visual prompts are really useful thing, just for reminding.
Petra, you shared many practical information, many practical examples of how we can help as caregivers. But what about when we have people with dementia, with declining functions? Someone who can be also uncooperative or can even resist our suggestions. What can we do in that case?
In my experience, very little things add a lot. So what I mean by this is, if we approach with calm communication, if we approach with being happy about something, really having the energy to do something with them, and if we do not stop with the first no, I think that's quite an important thing. And if we do not get frustrated initially when something happens, so that patience that leads us over this initial frustration, it's really important, I think, to overcome that. We need to kindly invite people to cooperate. We need to structure the activity in a way that is, just maintaining their energy, maintaining their involvement, and then there is really little resistance. If we create the activity that connects to their life story. So for a man who never cooked, to invite him to cook muffins, and it would be weird for him to do this, that's not an appropriate activity, and it's logical to feel resistance with that.
So it's very important to know well our person that we care of, and to know his history also, his life before dementia, right?
Yes, definitely, but also I think another thing is to know which stage of dementia they are in. So in the later stages, what we need to do is to address their senses, because through senses we get the experiences, not so much through words and through pictures and to stories, but through senses. So what we do is, besides the senses, also probably maintaining some calm environment, daily schedule, daily routine, so getting up at certain times, having meals at certain times, encouraging cooperation in meal preparation as much as possible. But yeah, going back to sensory activities, carers often forget that small things really count, like engaging our ears, our hearing, just listening to birds, listening to favorite musics, listening to different, or maybe having an activity where they need to guess which sound it is, maybe tearing the paper or a rattle or something. So just by guessing, that's quite an engaging, or having a game like that. Or then if we do things with hands, so with our touch, kneading the dough, having small fine motor activity for gentlemen, maybe with different metal things, or maybe stroking our pets, be it artificial or be it real pets, engaging our smells, scented candles, different spices, making use of those small everyday things to engage and to build relationship as well.
What about when dementia progresses to the point where our home environment becomes too dangerous for us, for people with dementia? When maybe they even start doing some odd things like using hand cream for brushing teeth or something like that. How can we help in those cases?
So I think safety considerations are indeed very important. I think that's what you wanted to highlight. But again, it's important to highlight enabling approach and not resisting and hiding and discouraging approach to people with dementia. Maybe we can first look at how the environment looks like, and look at maybe hand cream looks alike toothpaste. Yeah.
Okay.
So are they distinct enough? Do they have the same colors, the same brand? So if the person with dementia always used this type of toothpaste, and it's now alike, looks like the hand cream, that's not an appropriate thing to offer. So first thing is to look at the environment and see if the person with dementia has appropriate items around them. And if those items are grouped in a way that they encourage the involvement in the activity. So for example, in the kitchen, if somebody wants to prepare coffee and they have an issue with that, wouldn't it be smarter to group all the items instead of searching for them in different cupboards? To group sugar, milk, coffee, mug, water dispenser there, and have it all in one place. Or maybe if I go back to the shower, if there are 10 different shampoos and 2 hand creams and some things from the husband as well, and some things from the children as well, and they are all around the bathroom, it's very difficult for a person with dementia to focus and choose their thing to use. So again, use the visual prompts. Write with big letters, toothpaste. Try to see that try to encourage the use of different, distinct enough elements in the household.
And probably also decluttering a little bit. So if you said if you have 10 shampoos, maybe just put 1 shampoo.
I think if we all would declutter early enough in our old age, we would get so much more space for walking, so much more order, which helps with the structure of daily activities. With the order helps with the structure in our brain, where to search for things, where to go for certain activities. So yeah.
Petra, do we know any guidance for dementia-friendly environments? Do these exist?
So I'm not aware of any guidance per se, but there is definitely many useful resources. I would signpost our viewers to visit Dementia Australia website. They have a lot of resources on dementia-friendly environment. Also, UK's Alzheimer's Society has simple and useful checklists for that. But if I would need to give you a few simple instructions, guidelines, I would definitely say these four. The first would be to provide helpful guidance. So signage, we already said, written and in picture, for spaces and for storages to help with finding objects or to find spaces more quickly. Another thing we already mentioned is grouping items so that it's easy to find them and to perform the activity. The second thing would be to provide calm and quiet space. So a person with dementia can much easily get overstimulated. So loud TVs, barking dogs are not appropriate. So calm space also refers to using pastels, not bright colors. Avoid using stripes and dots and patterns that can cause maybe further confusion. My third guidance would be support movement and engagement. So if you can create a spot in the house where the person spends most time, can you provide activities there? You can maybe include the person in your daily exercise there, be it stretching, a walk to the morning mass, taking care of the pets, or exercise, just following the exercise on the TV. And then the fourth would probably be to reduce risks in the home environment. That's something we already mentioned. So provide appropriate lighting. Ask your community nurse, your occupational therapist or family doctor about options of medical aids, such as commodes, bath boards, raised toilet seats, different rails. There is so much more actually we could talk about, but it's really important to think about all those aspects of daily living.
Thank you very much, and we will also link our viewers to all the resources you mentioned so they can check for themselves also. Thank you. Petra, we talked a lot about adapting the environment, the home space. I know that you have worked according to Montessori method. Could you maybe share us a little bit what is this method and how can we help with it for a person with dementia?
Some people might know Montessori method from working with children, because children in Montessori method have things in order, placed in order in their space. They use activities to engage children. So yeah, this structure is really important and set environment. So working with the elderly and with people with dementia, according to Montessori method, is quite similar with one distinct thing, and that is that we don't use childish materials. So that means not using childish materials is actually comes from looking at the person holistically and knowing that they have certain experiences after them, that they are not children anymore, but they know the things that they used to do. They are a different person than what they used to be. One of the important things is to invite a person into the activity. Mm-hmm. So to say, Ida, could you come and join me? Could we do this thing together? So that we are partners, so that we build relationship again. Mm-hmm. One of the important things is also to prepare the activity that suits your personal history. So if you have been a mechanic, I need to make an activity that suits to that history. Mm-hmm. I won't lead you again to cooking, that's what we said before. Another thing is to have materials that you can work with your hands, mm-hmm. because hands and brain are very much connected. Also fine motor activities, gross motor activities to how we perceive mm-hmm. world. We said sensory activities before. The story method comes from the thinking that the person is still able to contribute. I've prepared some of the examples, that those are really some small hints of the method. So for the person with dementia who doesn't know how to cook anymore, we as carers need to think, is there any other way we can involve this person in the mealtime so they can maybe set a table? So here we have a really simple material that can engage a person with dementia for setting the table. So this material gives a hint of how the environment needs to be. So one of the elements of the Montessori method is also that you know how to do the thing because it's set in a way. So you could have this material probably a bit bigger because actual elements, actual utensils are a bit bigger. So just have a circle for a plate, a knife and a spoon just circled around, a place for a cup, a place for a napkin and fork, and just have a person with dementia prepare all those things. Maybe they can gather them themselves, or maybe they can just place them, but that's their contribution to the community, their contribution to the meal. Another example of using Montessori method would be introducing a board game which supports time orientation and just recognizing the clock and switching between those different tasks, like reading the clock, reading the digital and analog clock. And then Montessori materials are also always formed in a way that you can't make a mistake. So for example, here you have certain so 6 shifts in Slovenian language and 6 in digital clock, and if you put it together, the dots would match in color and shape. So in this kind of way, the person knows they did the thing in a correct way. Another thing would be matching or putting on the wardrobes different signs, again, which items are in there, or maybe taking out of the wardrobes the clothes that do not fit the weather or the season, so that the person has less choice and can make better choices for dressing. Or maybe just taking the wardrobe faces off, the wardrobe doors off, so that the person can actually see the things they need.
As we hear, this is a very practical method that you can then adapt to each specific individual. But what about where can we get some new information, new knowledge about this method? How can we find the resources?
So on the internet you can check either Montessori inspired lifestyle or Cameron Camp. So those are the ways where you can find those things. For the materials, you can create some of them. I mean, the carers can create some of them by themselves. Just think about what your person likes to do, what they need to do. If they like creating with wood, you can provide different wood pieces, different jigsaws, different memory cards. Just try to be creative. Try to also use what's already out there in the libraries. Maybe the Library of Things also offers the exchange of these things, so that we don't have to buy or $1, €1 store, or Pinterest and YouTube have a lot of resources, a lot of videos on Montessori inspired lifestyle and how those changes really impact people in real life.
We are now towards the end of this podcast. Petra, could you share maybe some final thoughts regarding daily living with people with dementia?
So yeah, maybe just to summarize, I think little things do a lot. First of all, what's important is education with dementia and just following what's new on that field. So knowing the disease, then there is emotional support. We cannot do the caring of a person with dementia alone. We need support groups, either family, either other carers. What's also important, and we said that already, is just being patient, maintaining that calmness in yourself when you take care of a person with dementia, because that affects your mental health first and foremost, and then your person with dementia that you look after as well. Then there is just knowing how people with dementia still have this emotional intelligence and how they can still feel your non-verbal communication, what we already said, how this patient then affects the relationship. And then, just talking slowly, just seeing, giving instructions step by step, and just seeing, allowing some time to the person with dementia and seeing if they comprehend what we said. And regarding the daily activities for people with dementia, just have something at hand always, so that you can just grab something from the bag of activities, be it a household chore, just folding towels, be it something for gentlemen, some fine motor activities, be it working with herbs, just something that your person likes and is passionate about, and build on those things and try to grade it, but also look for support elsewhere. I think, little things do a lot on the way.
Thank you, Petra, for this summing up. This is clearly a topic that resonates also with our viewers, or our listeners. We heard so many interesting things, useful insights, and very meaningful approaches in dementia care. So thank you for your interesting thoughts and many practical suggestions. I think this is the best part. And at the end of this episode, we also prepared the list of useful links and materials that Petra mentioned today, so you can find them in the description of this episode, and we hope they can be a further guidance for you. And that brings us to the end of today's episode, where we explored daily activities for people living with dementia. To our listeners, thank you for you tuning in. Thank you to you, Petra, again, and we invite you to check out the other episodes of Hands Together podcast series coming soon.